Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Coach's Corner University podcast. I am your host, Paul O'Neid, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by a new friend of mine, Jared Hamilton. Jared is the owner of Hamilton Trained, and he is best known, I guess I could say, for coaching from the inside out. So I'm wondering if we could start, Jared, the fuck does that mean?
What's up, brother? Simply put, I know that like also sounds airy fairy as fuck. You know what I mean? But
A little bit.
like that, but that's the thing. And I'm like, my biggest thing is I'm like the tactics guy. I always hate like the airy fairy stuff that's not practical or strategic for struggles or whatever the case is. But this is where I take a very different approach to coaching and transformation and as a whole, where most people, they always have something deeper going on under the surface with whatever the problem is. But then I think that goes an even layer deeper. So what I mean by that is like, let's say if someone's not getting to where they want to be, everyone's thinking, okay, well, how's your hormones? How's your like metabolism and how's all of that stuff, which I think is great. It's very important. But then there's a layer, I think, deeper than that, that goes psychological versus physiological. I think everyone gets a little too caught up in the physio side and not enough in the psychological side, because at least the community that we serve, I could snap my fingers and give them all the physiological stuff. We could, if I said, cool, your metabolism's perfect, your hormones are great, your gut microbiome, incredible, your training plan, awesome, your mechanics, beautiful. But most people would still be struggling because of their inner demon, so to speak. What I mean by that specifically is like specifically their relationship with food, their relationship with themselves, their actions when triggered emotionally, their subconscious sabotaging behaviors, these specific things, their old identities that influence their subconscious behaviors. All of these things, that's what I mean by dieting from the inside out or getting results from the inside out, is we have to do that fundamental work first. Otherwise, or at least in the process, otherwise nothing on the surface will make it long term.
Well, I really love that you framed it like that, because I think what most people forget is we're not coaching a textbook, right? We're not coaching a research paper. We're coaching a person. And people want to talk about the HPTA axis or the gut liver axis or the gut brain axis or this hormone system or that hormone system. And they forget that the human body is an integrated system of systems governed by this squishy, spongy looking thing that sits in our fat heads. And unless that thing is on board with what we're trying to do, it doesn't matter what supplements you take, what elimination diet you follow. It's always going to come. Like you can get by for a little bit. But when we talk about, I noticed on your website, you had a point about sustainability. It's like, I'm not going to do something now that I couldn't do in 10 years. And that really that hit it home for me with what I do as well. It's like, if I can't get my brain on board, I might be able to follow that low carb, low fat, like 10 calories a day diet to a point. Then the emotions come hold, and then you binge, and then so on and so on and so on. So I love that you started it like that. And that's a very thoughtful perspective to have. And obviously my follow-up question, as it is on any coaching podcast, how did you get to that point? Because that's not something that we're taught in school. That's not something that we're taught in a certification.
No, not at all. I felt so it's interesting. Every stage of my professional career, I fell into on an accident, and I am on paper the last person you would think would be in the role that I am in and teaching what I teach. Like literally not like a few short years ago, like I thought therapy was only for like suicidal quacks. Then lo and behold, I found myself in therapy and like, oh wow, there's a whole nother world here.
Therapy is the best.
Dude, therapy is dope as fuck. Actually, I just finished working with my past therapist. And then now I'm getting ready to start with hopefully a new therapist very soon. I think everyone needs to go have a level of therapy at some point in their life. I actually, this could be a whole nother rabbit hole. I think if you have any level of ambition, there's something there always. I think if you like have any level of like, I want to build a big business, I want to become crazy successful. To be honest, most of the friends of mine who are coaches because of a struggle they had. And they're like, I'm just trying to be the version that I needed back then. And it's like, there's probably some shit to unpack there. You know what I mean? But Uh, but
Let's go down that rabbit hole after you say how you
okay, okay. So long story short, I got to here because like teaching this stuff on a complete accident, because it was by nature of me accidentally watching what happened with our clients. Because for years, so I didn't ever think I was going to be an online coach. I had no aspirations of doing what I do now. I thought I was going to be a physical therapist. And then I found out I didn't want to be a physical therapist, found out I love personal training. I built a personal training company, thought I was going to be that trainer till the day I died, like just like this exclusive trainer that always had clients, like that guy. And then I was doing like 200 sessions a month, soloing it in my hometown. And I'm like, fuck this shit. Because at the end of the day, this wasn't practical or sustainable long term.
Yeah.
And then I transitioned online. Then one thing led to another. Then I scaled my business online. Then I found myself in this little, if you want to call it a niche, because it was still an accident, because for the longest time, I was just teaching sustainable fat loss. That was it. How to work out a couple days a week, eat your favorite foods, and enjoy being a mom looking good naked. Boom, fat loss. Like it's even easier than like coaching, like instead of like high level bodybuilding or powerlifting and the crazy, more sciencey stuff, having an average soccer mom lose 30 pounds while eating her favorite food isn't that hard to coach, right? Isn't quite as tedious as prepping a bodybuilder or like a high level NBA player or something like that. But the thing is, as over the course of time, I've always been into personal development. Like you see this, like all these books behind me. I've been into personal development and how the brain works, human psychology for a long time. I have no professional degrees or in that stuff by any means, but it's always fascinated me. And so I've always studied that stuff, like how neurotransmitters work and how the brain works and the subconscious patterns and all that stuff. But then, so we'll just put that over here. But then I'm coaching people. So then I'm teaching in the world of sustainable weight loss and just transformation and stuff like that. Well, then it got to the point during all of that, I was doing a lot of work on myself. I started going to therapy. I started diving into my own headspace stuff. I started addressing my own inner darkness. For me, my big two inner pieces of what I would label as inner darkness were high levels of anxiety was the big one, but then also this relentless feeling of unworthiness, and that I never wanted to unpack it. I'm just like, oh, I can make that feeling go away when I work really hard. So instead of yeah, 100%. And like that goes back to my childhood with my dad and like all this stuff. But instead of like emotional eating, it was emotional productivity and emotional working, if you want to call it that. So that's how I suppressed my shit for the longest time, and always had a higher level of anxiety. Perfect shitstorm for building a company, perfect shitstorm for all this stuff, which it still isn't sustainable. So years ago, I found out that's the trajectory I was on, went to therapy, did some more, a ton of inner work and around that, and I got on the other side of it, or as much as like, we're never on the other side fully, but got through that. And then I'm like, oh shit, this stuff applies everywhere. And then I noticed a pattern, because I think one of the best skills a coach can have is pattern recognition for anyone, but especially clients. So I started to feel very heavy around the coaching business. By this time, mind you, I scaled my business. I've been making money, helping a lot of people, but I'm like, this just doesn't feel like it used to. I was just starting to feel heavy about it. I was questioning if I want to do this the long haul. So a mentor of mine years ago put it in my head that when we have uncertainty and lack of clarity, we need to get quiet. And so go get quiet. And I'm like, that's what he would tell me to do. So I live in Indiana, and there's no shortages of farms out in the middle of nowhere. So I got an Airbnb by myself on a farm in the middle of nowhere out here. And I had a weekend to myself. So now actually this is part of my actual routine, is I have almost a quarterly Jared sabbatical, where I go by myself for about a weekend and let my brain just breathe and like have a lot of quiet time, so I can do a lot of introspection and things like that. And in that weekend, I had a lot of several epiphanies that I was thinking about all this stuff. And one of the biggest things that I found was that even though, people would come into our ecosystem client wise, and we would do the sustainable weight loss stuff, like cool, they come in, fix them, get them good, and send them on their way. But then I noticed a pattern. I go, wait, all right, Mrs. Jones binge eats. Fuck. All right, I got to fix her binge eating. Then I can get her on the path for sustainable weight loss. Boom. Because we know if she's binge eating every other day, she's not going to lose weight long term.
Right.
So then next client would come in, doing great. Oh shit, Tom is sabotaging subconsciously because he has a fucked up identity from his childhood. All right, I got to unpack that, fix his identity. Now we can send him on his way, and now he's doing great and he's not sabotaging anymore. Next one, doing great. Our relationship with food is terrible. She feels like she can't control herself. Okay, fuck, I got to fix her relationship with food, fix that real quick, then send her on her way. And I'm like, this is interesting. Notice the pattern that this is not the abnormal. This is the every fucking client has
This is the
something like
norm.
this
Yeah,
going
for
on.
sure.
It is the norm. But then a layer deeper, this is the stuff that I was doing to fix their shit was nothing I learned in school, nothing I learned in fitness, weight loss, diet courses, like nutritional periodization, none of that. It was shit I learned back here. It was stuff I learned about neuroscience. It's the stuff that I learned about subconscious patterns from James Clear, or stuff from like these other different people in the personal development and headspace mindset space around how the actual subconscious layers of this stuff works.
Mm-hmm.
So I started like building this together. I'm like, so I didn't talk about this on social at all. Like in my stuff, my content was normal, sustainable fat loss. And then I'm like, shit, all right, I got to do this underground work in their brain, then keep going. Well, then I'm like, oh, okay, this is what I'm passionate about. This is what my favorite thing to teach on is, and I can make it work in the coaching business. So in that moment, I overhauled everything. I overhauled my podcast. I overhauled our coaching program. I overhauled everything. So now we have a systematic approach that works every single time with this stuff. And now I talk about it. Now it's in my marketing. It's in my conversations. So, and then that's what led to that. So now from a tactical and systematic side, it's proven, it's flawless, versus just going, oh, just be more mindful, whatever the fuck that means. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's how I got to like this spot, if you will.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there.
There's a lot to unpack.
The first piece for me that jumped out was your own personal development. And that's something that I firmly believe that we all should be participating in. Is once we stop learning, we stop growing. And once we stop growing, our business is doomed.
Yep.
So we need to continuously be pursuing some level of personal excellence in all of our endeavors. And this is my personal belief. And I've had coaches disagree with me on that. But that's one of the reasons why I still train, because I want to look the part, act the part, feel the part. That's why I wake up and have my morning routine geared towards my sanity and my mental health. That's why I do cardio every day. That's why I do the things that I do in my relationship to nurture that, because I know all of these things are important to me, my well-being, and my personal development, and will only serve my business. Mm-hmm. And similar to you, my approach, and I would say, honestly, to a large degree, my personality has changed a lot through therapy. Mm-hmm. People who knew me probably, let's say, circa 2018, 2019, Paul O'Neid was a very rigid, militant person, like very authoritative. This is the way we're going to do things. If you don't like it, get the fuck out the door. Paul O'Neid now, empathetic, stoic, unemotional, I shouldn't say unemotional. I think stoic is a better word, because I do feel very deep, but
emotionally intelligent,
not emotionally reactive.
Yeah.
And is it very much a problem solver. And I credit that change to going to therapy and working on myself. You know, it's unfortunate for me that it took a very dark time in my life to get me there. But I feel like, and I'm going to generalize here, I feel like as men, we kind of need that dark time to be the kick in the ass to say, hey, figure your shit out.
Yeah.
There's very few of us who are like, I think I want to get better. I'm going to go to therapy. Life's great. Yeah. Let's go to therapy.
Yeah. So ironically though, mine was kind of that. Like I maybe, I don't know, since we're talking about it, for me, I didn't have this quite rock bottom of, or let me put this way. I was not aware I was at a rock bottom to do it. For me, things were actually going very well. My marriage was great. My business was great. Everything was all fine and dandy, but I viewed it through the lens of, because I was still really skeptical about therapy, but I knew from the moment I was at moving forward, life was only going to get crazier. I was only going to get more stressful. I was only going to get more responsibilities as it became more successful. So I wanted to make sure, as a box checker, my mental faculties and stress management was okay. And it wasn't. So for me, it was almost like a checkup, is the way that I talked myself into going to therapy. Was Good. Not like, oh, I've got this issue. It was, you know, I see a lot of clients who they think what they're doing is dope. They think keto is 1,200 calories and CrossFitting 18 days a week and not sleeping and getting rid of sugar is a great way to lose weight, and it's going to fuck them over the next 5 years. What if the way that I'm handling my mental health is not the best, but I think it is? Let's just do a little checkup. And so my wife was already in therapy working through some stuff. So I just went to her therapist because, if your partner's in therapy, they're going to know about you, obviously. So I go,
Yeah.
this lady already knows half about me. I might as well go to her and just start sharing some stuff and be like, hey, I just want to check to make sure. She had me bawling in my first session. So yeah, it's one of the, and then I was with that therapist for the next like 3 years. So
yeah, it took me having like multiple panic attacks a day, not sleeping, and losing 12 pounds in 5 days to go to therapy. It
wow.
was good. It was a real good one. But honestly, again, forever grateful for that experience and where it's led me. So that was the first thing I think I really am grateful that you were able to speak on, because a lot of people don't speak on the fact that, therapy is a valuable tool. But the next piece I would say is you're a parallel thinker. And that's something that I really appreciate in other people. And it's something that I see as very common in highly successful people, is their ability to draw conclusions on their own, we'll call it their own industry or their own sphere, from other industries. An example I would give is, I went to the Swiss Symposium last week, and on the way there, I listened to 2 3-hour podcasts about the Israel-Hamas thing. I have no opinions over it. I think death of innocent people is a tragedy, regardless of what side of the fence you're on. But what I took away from that is the entire thing is a failure of communication, compounded over and over and over by violence.
Yeah.
So if I can somehow glean any knowledge about communication during conflict from this grandiose tragedy, I think I listened to both sides. I listened to a Palestinian focused one, and I listened to a Israeli focused one. And I was like, okay, like there's a lot to take away here from the.
Yeah.
And then I very rarely will read on the topic of strength and conditioning, powerlifting, performance nutrition. And not because I don't think I can learn more, but because I can impact my clients more through learning those other things.
1,000%. I would agree with that completely. I think it's interesting you bring that up. I think at every level in life, communication is literally it. Like in every industry, if you think of like sales is just a high level of communication. If you think like marriage relationships, it's high levels of communication. If you think like with my team, I have to have high levels of communication to make sure things are functioning properly. Even like getting this podcast scheduled, there was a level of communication that was going on. I would even argue meditation is a level of internal communication. So like it because you're right. Like, yeah, what's going to serve your people the most? You getting 1% smarter because you're already so brilliant, or you getting 20% better at communicating the knowledge you currently have,
Hey guys, I'm just going to point out he called me brilliant. I didn't say it. He said it. So there it is. Podcast over. Let's pack it up.
That's right.
Brilliant. Let's go home. No, I appreciate that. And that resonates with me a lot. I think you and I, think very clearly on those topics. And I want to take a look at, so you mentioned you overhauled the business. Like you went to therapy, you realized like there's a lot of stuff I'm missing out on, and that perhaps I'm not that you're doing your clients a disservice, but you're not serving them to the highest level based on the new information that you have. What's been the evolution of your business and of you as a coach through that whole process? Because I know your role now is not what your role was a few years ago.
Sure. Well, here's my thing. And this is something I learned on it early in a different business that I used to be a part of, where just because something works doesn't mean it's a good idea. It only works if it's scalable to your entire team. So this is why systematically I had to overhaul it, where it wasn't just duplicatable for me to do. It had to be duplicatable for my team to do at a high level, because I don't want to have a key man problem where like, well, I can coach people great, but my team, it's like, fuck. You know what I mean? I actually, to be honest, because of Instagram, everyone wants me to coach them. But now people are like, well, I'm sure your team is great, but how do I coach with you? I'll literally tell the other way around. I go, you're going to get a better client experience with my team because they wear one hat. Coach, I wear 17 hats in this business. You're going to have a better experience with my team. And that's just the way that I'll just call a spade, which is why I don't really even advertise me taking on clients. I bring them into our ecosystem and they go to my coaches so they can get served at the highest level. Now, to answer your question though, like what kind of changes did I make? The first change was, how do I make this systematically duplicatable? Because it's not a good idea if someone just can have a couple good transformations. You should consistently be having duplicatable success, like a carbon copy machine of, holy shit, how is this consistent? And it's, in my opinion, from a systematic side. Like I talked to a lot of other people who have a similar model coaching business to mine, like with other coaches under them and all the things like this. Whereas every client, one thing I want is to have everyone have the same client experience. Like, yeah, because of the way humans work, is some people might have a specialty over another, but otherwise, approach wise, everyone's going to have the same client experience no matter which one of my staff you're working with, because this way it's a common denominator. It's I can have the peace of mind knowing that any coach can take any client, and if someone can't, then they probably wouldn't be a good fit for any one of my coaching staff. They're probably not even the right demographic for us. But so the changes that I made, I knew had to be to meet several levels, but one of which it had to be duplicatable at a large scale, because I view business and weight loss very similarly. One of the biggest detriments I had in business is because I wasn't big yet, or because I wasn't at scale, I would do dumb things because I could afford it time-wise. So then I built this base of unsustainable shit. Then I couldn't scale it. And I'm like, fuck. You know what I mean? Like, whether it be the way I did check-ins or money or anything like that.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt your thought process, because holy shit, I see that all the time.
It's terrible.
I do a lot of business mentorship with young coaches who are usually in that 5 to 10 client range.
Yeah.
You can get away with a lot. So if you're taking 35, 40 minutes to do a check-in with a client every week, you can get away with that when you have 5 or 10 clients.
Yeah.
If I dump 20 clients in your lap tomorrow, could you serve those people to the highest level without wanting to blow your brains out?
Right.
And the answer is no, because you don't have the systems to manage the communication. You don't have the systems to support that individual. So if we're going to make a change, it has to be one that works whether you have 5 clients or whether you have, let's say, 75 clients.
Yeah.
And that, if that's not the case, don't do it.
Yeah, agreed. There's an adage that we teach clients is, if you can't do it for 10 years, we don't do it for 10 days. People do stupid shit like, I vacation in a couple of weeks, I'm going to just cut my carbs real low or do extra cardio. I'm like, whoa, no. Like, you're not a bodybuilder. You're not we're not prepping you for a stage. Like, that's not what we do. If you cannot do it for 10 years, do not touch it for 10 days. Otherwise, that's why people say in cycles so many times. But again, it's the same thing in business. Like, I've only got 5 clients, so I can do this. Well, that's the problem, because then you're going to take on 5 clients and get shitty habits. Then you're going to get 5 more clients and shitty habits. Then you're going to be another one of the coaches who has a roster of 50 clients who literally can't sleep at night and have panic and are having panic attacks, ready to burn their business to the ground. And when you want to burn your business to the ground, you can't serve people. So you doing what is easy now is actually really fucking selfish. So, because long-term, you're going to trash your company.
You're also going to trash yourself.
100%. 100%.
One of the things that I kind of come back to with myself is as a power lifter, I destroyed my body, and now as a coach, I teach others not to. As an individual, I've also had 2 clinical burnouts, so I know exactly how to avoid those clinical burnouts.
Right.
Let me save you.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. So for me, the biggest change that I made was get clients' expectations on point with this, like with the way that I kind of redid the program. On a higher level overall, I basically changed my messaging. So it was less about like a million different ways you can create a calorie deficit. It's more like, if you're binge eating, here's how we stop that. So I started talking about different levels of problems. Instead of, hey, I'm eating right, but I don't know why I'm not losing weight. And don't get me wrong, I still will make more surface level content. But like, case in point, I did a post the other day, a reel the other day, went viral. It was one of my most my least edited, least special posts. I literally turned my camera on, and I even have this recorded. I took a big deep breath and I went, what do people need to hear right now? And I opened my mouth and just spoke. That was it. No anything. And the whole message was carbs aren't your problem. Calories aren't your problem. Well, all the stuff that I mentioned earlier, like, oh, I could give you all this stuff, but you'd still struggle, wouldn't you? You'd still sabotage, wouldn't you? You'd still have a shitty relationship with food, wouldn't you? You'd still gain all your weight during the holidays that's about to come up, wouldn't you? So that's the thing, is we have to go deeper to fix this stuff. And that was the post. Ironically, that post went off. I did not expect it to go off. I have people literally signing up for coaching right now from just that post. Like zero in like 2 days. Like where do I sign up with you? Like crazy shit. But which that's not like the norm. Like I don't want to base like my whole business model on. Like,
no. Let's just flex on people. Be like, yeah, that's how I do it all the time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's posting. They come. No. But like that's the thing is, I got really clear on my messaging, which number one attracts the exact person from when it does come time to have a sales call. Because I don't want to, like, imagine if I put out content around like rapid fat loss, lose 30 pounds in 30 days. And then I'm like, whoa, we got to fix your inner game.
Yep.
So the first big change I made was I brought the stuff that I never talked about into my messaging and storytelling and content. So now this way, like, again, you said it, like you and I just met, but like, you're like, so you're this inside out guy. Like let's talk about it. It's because of my messaging is what happened. So that's what I want to do from a we'll call it top of funnel, from like when people enter my ecosystem, they know exactly the kind of person, the kind of content, who I am, what I stand for. Because especially in the world of content and social media and business, I don't give a fuck about like just having a bunch of numbers, like followers. I want engaged in the right kind of followers. I would rather have 1,000 of the right people versus 1 million of the wrong people. It's why I don't care. It's why I don't care about like content going viral, is because viral in our business model, if Mr. Beast needs to go viral, he's paid on views and likes. My business model is paid on the right kind of people, seeing the value in what the problems I solve, and them signing up for coaching or my services or products. So like case in point, I had a funny video hit 1.6 million views on TikTok. Nothing in my life changed. Nothing. I had almost 2 million people see my shit, and they went, oh, that's cool. And they kept scrolling. It's because it was a surface level funny piece of content, which is fine. But that's why, like, from a business perspective, I'm trying to talk to my exact person. There's actually, from a business perspective, this is a recent thing I did. For the longest time, my content hasn't been doing as well. It hasn't been performing as well. So I made the decision, because let's say a year ago, every video of mine was doing 20 to 50,000 views effortlessly. It was crushing. Now I may be lucky to get 1,000. Like, I don't know why, but for some reason, whether it be my content's not as good, the algorithm, who knows, it's just not performing as well. So I'm always refining, like, what can I do better? How can I engage more? How can I make this better?
Of course, yes.
But at the same time, the other frame of mine is this. I had a tendency to go, what do I need to do to get these numbers up? Not my focus has changed. Versus now I go, I'm accepting the fact that only 500 people are going to see this video. I'm fully embracing and accepting that. I'm not going to fight it anymore. But I want every one of those 500 people to be my person who goes, this is it. This is the guy I've been trying to find.
Yes.
So that's what I speak to. So I assume only 500 people are going to see my content. Because see, I used to have a tendency to get in my head and get all butthurt about content not performing. Oh, it's only 100 views. Bro, I would get into front of a room in front of 100 people right now and be hyped about it. So why am I getting butthurt about like only 100 views, only 500 views? So I'm like, bro, so one of the most nervous times I've had was me speaking. Like I spoke on a stage in front of 750 people last year, because I'm trying to do more. I'm getting more into the public speaking sector, and I loved it. It was one of the most invigorating feelings ever. Yeah. It was my biggest speaking event in person, 750. That's a big fucking room. Yeah. I was like, but then I turn around and post a piece of content. I'm like, oh, only 1,000 people saw it. What the fuck? What's wrong with me? You know what I mean?
I forget who I was speaking to, and it might have actually been when you and I spoke last week, where someone did a live event that was collaborated between two people, and they were disappointed that they only had 100 people attend. And the response from the collaborator was, when was the last time you sat in front of 150 people and they listened?
Yeah.
He was like, okay.
Yeah.
And one thing that I try to help others with their content generation is, you mentioned 4 key elements there: the language and the messaging, being consistent with your brand,
Mm,
because that brand is consistent with the individual that you're trying to focus on. So it doesn't matter what this algorithm picks up, because even if it's 50 people, if you get those 50 people to raise their hand,
yep.
you're doing a good job.
Mhm.
And then the other two elements were, you were very accurate in identifying the problems that you're trying to address. You know so intimately your ideal client that you know how they think, how they feel, how their life is failing them at that moment, and you are identifying yourself to them in a very relatable way that you can solve their problems through your service. People need to hear that. It's not about followers. The more time I spend in this business space, like, I have less than 9,000 followers. My business does better than many, 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 many people with 100,000 followers or more,
Yeah.
because I know that 8,500 or whatever people want what I'm selling.
Yeah. Dude, if I could clean out, like I've got a relatively okay size following, like I've got a 250,000 followers on TikTok, a little over 60K on Instagram, just like those two, for example.
Yep.
If I could clean that out like an email list, I would do it in a heartbeat. Literally, like I would, if I could clean out the disengaged people, the people who are just like never would ever buy my shit, and it would drop the number at the top that makes everyone feel so good. I
Yep.
would do it in a heart. I would literally do it in a heartbeat. Like because we like, with email lists and stuff, we do that all the time. Like, oh, this person hasn't responded. Like you do your like roll or your whatever, the spreadsheet stuff. And then you go, oh, this 10% hasn't engaged in the last whatever. And we like delete them off the list because it's affecting things. I would do that on my socials in a heartbeat. And I've got a big social, like, you know what I mean? But a lot of people, like, I know some people who are like buying followers, and I'm like, bro, like, what it is people like to see that number, and they're like, oh, it's actually not what they want to see. It's an insecurity that what everyone else is seeing. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people who will look at a page, and they're more worried about what their friends think about their 10 likes on their post or their 1,000 followers than their clients. Your clients don't give a fuck. I have friends who have like less than 5,000 followers on Instagram who make $70,000 a month consistently, the right way. Like, I know these people intimately, and they have like 1,500 people on an email list, 5,000 people on Instagram, 1,000 people in a Facebook group, like very conservative numbers. And they're pulling like 70K a month consistently. Like, so, but because it's not just the number, it's the right people that make up those numbers. And it's the biggest difference in the world.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very, very good message. And all of that plays into your brand. Your brand vision has to be consistent across all of that. Because if you started posting about best ways to lose weight in 10 days, you would be betraying your audience.
Yeah. Or they'd be waiting for like the punchline, like cut your arm off or whatever. Like they would be, you know what I mean? But right. But no, you're absolutely right. It would confuse my marketing. It would confuse my messaging, and it would be a betrayal to people that go, oh, I thought that's the shit he didn't stand for.
So
What?
yeah, exactly. Like, this is all incredibly insightful. And it always, the whole idea of a self-made individual, I don't necessarily believe in, because none of us got here on our own.
Mm-mm.
What have been some of the big influences on you, whether it be on the coaching mentality side of things, on the business side of things? Who are some people that have had a really big impact on you?
People specifically. So there's so one of my little cheat codes that I've had in business. Don't get me wrong, I still feel like I'm behind as fuck. Like, I don't think I'll ever not
We
feel
all
like,
do.
know, like I just turned 32 like last week, and I'm like, why am I not a billionaire yet? You know what I mean? Like, but that's not fair. It's not logical. Like, I realize it's like the client who's like, why haven't I lost more weight? I'm like, because you're not supposed to yet. This is why, like, I'll answer your question, but while we're talking about it,
Yeah,
one thing
please.
that I've had this has been a recent thing, and my ego hates it. As I've become more self-aware, as I've been able to get more introspective and zoom out and have like do this, the inner work that we're talking about, I had a reality check probably not like within 3 months ago. I had
Mhm.
this, I don't know what hit it. There's some new and really weird inner work stuff I've been doing that we could totally talk about too if you want. That's just weird as fuck. But it's been having a pretty drastic influence on my introspection. And one of which is I've always struggled with, I should be so much further ahead. When I got into not this business, but when I got into like business in general, when I was like in my early 20s, I'm like, I'm going to be a millionaire before I'm 30. Like I want to, like, that was like what arbitrary as fuck, doesn't matter. Not a million, like, but then it's like, well, is it a million? Gross is a million. Profit. I'm like, my ego wants to make $1 million a year, whatever it is. You know what I mean? So, literally, like when I turned 30, I was depressed as fuck because I'm like, oh, I didn't do it. Like, I want to say like that year I made like, still made like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands, right? Like I still like, actually, no, that year my business grew 240%. And I was making several $100,000. And like my staff is buying houses, like that kind of shit. Like we're talking big impact. But because I was in my head, I went, oh, what's wrong with me? Right. And I'm like, why am I like this? What the fuck? So again, more shit to unpack. But one thing that really was a hit to my ego when I would really get in my head about like, I'm not where I want to be, I should be further ahead, is it was a blessing I wasn't, because I couldn't have handled it. And I'm like, I don't know why, but that's just like, wow, like, right. Like wasn't even ready for it. But then it's like this more intelligent self was just like, cause you would have fucked it up. Cause you're not ready. You weren't ready for it. You were immature. And if you had that, you would have been stupid. You would have blown it. You couldn't have handled it. And zooming further out, if I had the success I have now, and the responsibilities that come with that success, because they both go together. They're traveling partners. I couldn't have handled it when I was 25, when I was 28. I literally couldn't have handled it. The normal stressors I handle on the day to day, not to like beat my chest, but the normal stressors I have would have debilitated old Jared. You know what I mean? So it's like with every new level comes a new devil, and it's just part of growth. And I know the things that are like my 9 out of 10 in 5 years is going to be like chump change, or like, fuck, what, are you a bitch? Why couldn't you handle that? You know? So it took a lot of introspective on that. And my ego still hates it. Like when I'm like, oh, I should be further ahead. It's like, but could you handle that? I don't think you could, you know what I mean? So it's like, well, fuck. Yeah. Maybe I should just be where my feet are. So,
well, if we continue to draw parallels between business and fat loss, when it happens slower, it's more sustainable and you can adjust to it on the fly. And I also believe when it's a bit slower, it continues to be aligned with you. And so, if we look at this, I think I'm on my 3rd or 4th career, and I'll be 36 in 2 days. That'll be a couple weeks after this is, or before this is posted. But if I had the level of success I had now, same as you, when I was even 2 years ago, I wouldn't have known what to do. And because it's happened so slowly, it's been so clear in my mind, that trajectory. Yeah. I know, like, I used to have feelings if I'm not further ahead. But as you mentioned, like, I'm right where I need to be, because it's in line with where I want to go.
Yeah, totally. It's one of the things that really changed this for me as well. And it ties to your original question of like, who have been some of the people that have influenced this. There's a gentleman that his content just changed my entire life. And then crazy synchronicities happened, and now we're friends. And like, it's stupid. This dude's a hero of mine. And his name's Kyle Cease. He's a big author kind of guy, like a New York Times bestselling author, transformation kind of guy. And so basically he the concept of chasing is what's the problem. And I realized for me in business, I was just chasing all this stuff. But like, if you think about it, think of the energy of chasing.
Yeah.
Think of the like the emotional, like if you want to get into like quantum physics, think of like the vibration and the energy of chasing. It repels. If I'm chasing a girl trying to get laid tonight, I haven't had pussy, so I want to get laid tonight, my chances of getting laid are not going to happen, because the energy of chasing, forcing things to happen that shouldn't happen right now, actually repels them. Right. We've all been in sales scenarios where you can just smell that guy's like low on his commissions that month. And you're just like, bro, I don't want to buy from you. But then the guy who's like, I don't give a fuck if you buy. It's like, even like some of the greatest salespeople, like Alex Ramosi says, the person who can walk away from the sale who doesn't need it has all the leverage. And I can tell you in the past, during like harder months in the business, and I'm like, fuck, I have to get this closed. I have to, whatever. Those are the hardest ones to do versus when I go, I don't give a fuck if you sign up. I've got leads out the ass. I've got sales calls out the ass. I literally don't even care. They're begging and dripping to buy. Didn't even have to schedule a call. So for me, a lot of what's impacted me the most, as kind of airy-fairy as it sounds, is my energetic state and emotional state during business is one of the biggest ones. So that I have to really watch and control. So ironically, with this stuff, Kyle Cease has been one of the biggest influencing like how I think and emotionally feel around stuff, because then that affects what I attract and my actions and what people feel when they interact with me. So it's no wonder also when that piece of content went off, it was the one I felt most aligned with. I said, what do people need? And all I thought about was talking to my person, and it crushed versus my post. It's like, all right, how do I get this to go off? What's my best hook? All right, I have to have this. I have to have this because I'm trying to get it to go viral. Of course that one's not going to do well. How can it check all the boxes? It's edited. It's got no fluff. It's like 30 seconds. It's got the hook. It tells a story. Why didn't it crush? It's because this may sound crazy, but it's because my energetic state while in it was in lack and chasing. So it's no wonder that one didn't do well. In the not polished 2-minute video that cut off, that violated all the rules, crushed. And then had people begging for coaching, so like that, those are the kind of things that really influence a lot of this. Otherwise, like Kyle Cease was a big one. Ed Milet was a big one. Dr. Joe Dispenza was a big one. And then I have like, those are like the people that like, I read their books that like I don't know them. Kyle though, I had some cool shit happen where Kyle, like basically he came on my podcast and we became friends. And like now, like he's like invited me to his event, had lunch with him. Like I'm talking about some like crazy shit happened.
Very cool.
Like, bro, like that's a whole wild story. But like he wanted my content on his YouTube now, like crazy shit. But then I have hired one of my cheat codes for coaching when I was building businesses. I've always had a mentor. When I transitioned from in-person to online, I hired a mentor while I was broke and couldn't afford it. Like I was paying this, but like at the time, my rent was $400 a month. I know, the crazy sounding. I know it's cheap as fuck, but Indiana. Like where I was staying, Indiana, it was $400 a month. I was paying this guy $700 a month. And I'm like, oh, fuck. But I executed like a motherfucker because I was scared, and it crushed. And then when I wanted to scale big boy time, I hired a mentor. So like for me, I've always had some semblance of someone in my pocket in a support system that has a proven track record, and I've just done what they said. So
hear that, everybody? Another podcast done. No, I totally agree. Like I know for me, when I had a successful coaching business, doing what I was doing, and I decided I wanted to scale and I wanted to get into mentorship. So I hired somebody who ran a mentorship to teach me how to run a mentorship. Why waste time making mistakes on my own when I can just learn from someone who's already done it and is where I want to be? And now, dude's a good friend of mine. We share ideas. We've had multiple calls just as friends. Unfortunately, he doesn't live where I live. Otherwise, we meet up more. But that's also someone who you could potentially collaborate with in the future. And you learn about the people that work with them. So you're automatically input into a community, a network of people who are like-minded and driven, just like you. That shit fires me up. That was probably the biggest thing I took away from being at the Swiss Symposium, was just how many people are doing great shit. And I wanted to be one of those people doing great shit.
Yeah. Dude, I'm telling you, there's so many levels to that. Like number one, just like it's just the inspiration alone. Literally, like one of the things for me was I would see people get recognized, like whoever's running the thing, like, oh yeah, this is my client that's doing this, or hey, this is whatever. Like whether it be a presenter who's had so much amazing success, they're teaching that now, or like whoever runs the event and like, oh, here's our clients that are crushing. I then had a sense of lack, and I'm like, I want to be that. And I never had that desire. And then guess what? Now I've been on that stage. Like I've been that top level client that produced, or now I've had such success in that. Like I had the event that I spoke at earlier this year last year this year in Phoenix. I literally did a talk on how your identity is making your business fail. Literally, because I had success with that. Then I got invited to speak about it, right? So it's these kind of things. But then at the same time, I have had some of the best connections and game-changing things happen going to these events. I've met like the one person who had the connection that I needed, or the one person that had the software company that like I use now that makes things seamless. Like there are so many crazy shit that happens when you just put yourself in the room, but not just put yourself in the room and put your blinders on and be like, I hope someone comes talks to me. Like I
Go
see people
introduce
do that.
yourself.
Yeah, put yourself out there, know what you're looking for, and being open, like, hey, there's a gold mine here somewhere. I've just got to find it, So
Where does your okay? I have a feeling I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Where does this drive come from? Where does this drive towards success come from? And
I don't.
how do you even define success?
Oh boy, that's a hard one. So where's the drive come from? I kind of know, but I don't. Um, for me, like it makes me want to unpack this more with like the right therapist about like if we like go crazy. But I've always felt like since I was little, I was destined for something ridiculous. Like from a young age, like I've had people in my life, like maybe this is exactly why, like I'm nothing special, but I've had a few people tell me when I was like 6, like, hey, something magical is going to happen to you, or you're supposed to change the world, or there's something special about you. I'm like, okay, like, you know what I mean? Um, but then within that, certain things always came naturally to me. Like whether it be I can like for like there's one superpower I've always had since I was a little kid. Mind you, I'm an awkward homeschool kid that never went to public school, and I didn't know how to talk to people. So like mind you, like communication wasn't like a thing. Like
Right.
even now it's a work in progress. But but um but I've always had this gift of being able to connect with people regardless of what my mouth says. Like regardless of stupid shit I say, I've always had this thing of I can make a best friend in 2 seconds. I can get people to open up and tell me things they've never told anyone else. And people just naturally trust me and connect with me. The nice thing is I use those powers for good, not evil, because with like Spider-Man,
Yeah.
with great power comes great responsibility. But that's always been there since I was literally a child. I remember like having specific things happen. And then as I got older, it was like one thing to another, to another, to another, to another. So I've always had like that thing. But otherwise I don't know exactly where it all comes from. I just know there's something in here that's like you're supposed to do some really dope shit. So and then you tie that to a child growing up in childhood. I started working with my dad in construction at like 13 or 14. He owned his construction company, and he apologizes for it now, but without knowing any better, he worked me and my brothers like 30-year-old men. So I learned my work ethic from like I would go get other jobs, and they're like, "Oh, you can take a break, right?" And I'm like, "No, it's fine." And like, because I can work like nobody's business. I'm really good at suffering, um, and so I learned that when I was like 13. Is like we just shut emotions down and we just fucking work because it doesn't matter. The job needs done. Like that was what was put into my brain when I was 13, 14 years old. So you combined those two things, like this sense of like I'm supposed to do something big, like I've been chosen, I feel like, almost in a weird kind of way. Mix that with childhood shit around like, no, we shut emotions down and work. That's a powerful combo. That you want to talk about two Clydesdales. That's a powerful combo.
It can serve you. It can serve you for sure. And
Yeah,
it can also be to your detriment. And
yeah.
I'm not surprised at your answer, but coming back to what you said before of this like genuine feeling of inadequacy, I almost feel like for myself that resonated because there was definitely that. It's like if I achieve more, I'm good. I'll be good enough. And then you keep achieving and you're still not good enough. And obviously through therapy, you kind of realize that that's bullshit. And it wasn't until I gave that up and started realizing that my true drive was not to prove that I was enough, but my true drive was to make sure that I was adding value for others.
Mm.
And as soon as I realized that and I dove into it and I started pouring into others, that was the catalyst for my business growth.
Mm.
And I feel like your journey somewhat mimics that in terms of you knew you were destined for something great. You didn't necessarily know what it was, but you just started doing the things that you were good at. But as you handled your own shit, as you said, everything on the other end got better.
Mhm.
So I love that kind of almost serendipitous story.
Right, right.
Yeah. Um, okay, so let's talk a little bit about mentorship because you brought it up. How do you take on more of a mentorship role within your business? How many coaches do you have under you?
Currently 6.
Six. So six people who are supporting their own families based on the business that you run, and you have obviously taken on a mentorship role with them. How has that transition for you been, and how do you fill that role?
I mean, I love it. It's a lot more, being honest, it's knowing what I know now. It's so much more pressure than what it was before.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I see people like who, let's say, don't have a team. They're just like with their clients. They're like, oh my gosh, I got to make sure my clients are taken care of. I go, yeah, they're paying you. It's your responsibility. But now imagine you have people that like your ability to grow and sustain the business is predicated on them feeding their family and paying their bills and taking care of all those clients. And they're like, oh my gosh. I'm like, yeah, this is why I'm getting gray hair already. Uh, you know what I mean? So, but no, but it's also one of the most rewarding things ever. Like we all know how it is. Like when clients start seeing results and you're just like,
Yeah.
that feeling you get, that's like, oh shit. Like, or the client's like, I haven't binging in like 5 months. Like that's a great feeling. Or the client is
Huge.
like, yo, or like, yo, I don't have to take my seatbelt extender on the airplane. Like massive moments for these clients. Like, cause I think, yeah, before and afters are cool. Yeah, like all this stuff is cool, but clients will have this moment, this mini experience of whether it be like, I clipped the seatbelt for the first time and not without the extender. Or they were like, I actually had sex this last night with the lights on because I felt confident enough. Or
Oh.
this vacation, I played volleyball in my bikini and I didn't worry about it. Or hey, I
Mm.
enjoyed my vacation and actually was present with my kids because I wasn't trying to, because I knew I couldn't fuck up my diet because it's because of what I did leading up to this point. And it's these moments for me. But I now have those moments with my staff. Like when my first staff member bought a house, I was like, I said, oh, bro, that's what's up. And he goes, I couldn't have done that without you, right? And I'm like, bro, you're about to get me like emotional right now. Like,
Yeah.
or I had another staff member buy her dream car. And I'm like, holy shit. The other staff member that just he's my head coach, my director of coaching, dude just bought a business. Like, dude just literally bought his dream from a little kid. He wanted to own a gym. He wanted to own a brick and mortar. So, but because now he's been working with me and he's my head guy, he just invested and bought a local brick and mortar. Just bought a gym and now living his dream. Come full circle. Guess what gym I started in?
That gym.
That gym.
That's so cool.
Because he lives like 30 minutes from me. So I started as my personal training business in that gym, hired him as an assistant personal trainer in that gym. And he's still with me to this day. And the owners ran it into the ground and he just turned around and bought that gym. And again, we're sitting at like a cigar bar and he's like, dude, I couldn't have done this without what I've learned from you. And then but guess what? Now he has a business sense also because he's worked with me. So now I'm going to help him help him from the business side of like stuff as well. So like, it's a whole nother level of rewarding. Like I didn't believe it when I heard the story. So there's a couple, like I learned there's some other bigger business names that I study and follow, and I'm in some like masterminds and stuff, but they interviewed Steve Wozniak from like
Okay.
Apple.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were like, like they said, hey, Steve, what's the greatest like feat you've ever experienced being a founder in Apple? You know, he works side by side with Steve Jobs, right? And
Yeah.
Wozniak, you're expecting some crazy stories. And Wozniak says, when you drive up to the company, when you drive up to HQ, you pass these houses, this housing addition on this hill, and it's only like multi-million-dollar houses. It's only crazy, crazy successful people live there, and it's almost all Apple employees. And that was his crazy, and that was his answer. He's like, that's the dopest thing ever. Every day I drive to work and I see where all my employees live. And
That's
they're
so
all on
cool.
this. Right. Exactly. So for me, that's been the biggest surprise being the mentor to my coaches is when like that kind of stuff. like the stay-at-home mom has like a steady income for her kids, so she's not stressed about work as much or money as much, or people are buying their houses, buying their dream cars, are able to focus on their like other passions because they're making money over here in coaching while they're taking care of the clients, obviously. So that's been like one of the most surprisingly rewarding things. I didn't think that would, like, I knew it'd be dope, but I didn't think it would like blindside me the way it has. Because at the end of the day too, it kind of ties into the whole thing. Like when people ask me like, what's my favorite part about coaching is giving people results no one can take away. Because at the end of the day, for me, coaching isn't just about creating results. It's about creating a matching skill set as well. If
Right.
you have results and no skill set, the results go away.
They're fleeting.
I see the same thing with my staff. When I'm not just telling them how to create results, I'm teaching them how to teach for them, like have that skill set for themselves so they can consistently have great clients and great transformations. But then also, like, I remember years ago, and I can't remember what book, leadership book it was like a good leader leads, a great leader leads people on how to lead. And I never thought I would do that. But then, like, when I zoom out, that's what I've had to do for my staff is I'm not just leading clients, I'm leading my staff on how to be the leader for their clients and communicate and all this. So I would say that's been some of the bigger things for me.
I love that, man. I love that. It's been really interesting for me to hear how, the mindsets between you and I have definitely paralleled one another, but also, like, just so everyone knows, like, business model wise, we're two totally different businesses, and that, I have 5 coaches that work for me as well, but they all run their independent businesses under our umbrella rather than, this singular service model, because our company doesn't have a single avatar. And we have a coach who specializes in contest prep. We have a coach who specializes in soccer moms. We have a coach who specializes in powerlifting. And again, a different business model, but I'm always trying to learn on my end how to nurture these coaches to continue to grow themselves as leaders, just like you mentioned, so that they can continue to expand what they do. Maybe a bit of a selfish question on my end. How do your coaches promote both themselves and Hamilton Trained at the same time, or is the promotion of the company just your role?
It's just my role. One of the things that I actually don't have my client or my coaches do is like promotion, like social stuff, like content. I don't have them. Like if they want to, great, but it's not like a requirement by any means. For me, I'm like the main character, if you will. And because most of my team, they don't want to like they're and it's one of the things that like I talk about with clients is like when I say they have one role, our clients have one, or I'm sorry, our coaches have one role, and that's to coach. That is it. Not coach and part-time content creator, social media person, all that. They also don't love to do that. Like I have a couple that will post some stuff, but otherwise, I want their entire role and duty taking care of their people, taking care of our clients and serving at the highest level, and not sacrificing that because they haven't posted on Instagram today. You know what I mean? So that's why I love the social media stuff, and no one can, we'll say, sell my message like I can, because it's my message. So that's the way I've built it. And then also, and I tell people this in the interview process when working for me, this may sound kind of harsh, I don't want to hire entrepreneurs. I think it can be a liability for the business. Whereas if I were to hire an entrepreneur, they're going to leave. Like if let's say I was tight for money and I let's say wanted to go work for someone, I'm a purebred entrepreneur for me. Like I've been an entrepreneur since I was 13, going door to door for $20, shoveling driveways in the snow, like shit like that. Like I have so many cases like that. If I worked for someone, like I would literally leave within like 6 or 7 months. I'm the kind of guy that go work for someone, get the skills I need and leave. But from the business building side, I think that's dangerous. I want people who are going to be here for years and years and years and years and years. Of course, I can't guarantee that. But if I had a team full of purebred Jareds, then my churn rate would be really high with my staff and all these things versus I love having a business of entrepreneurs where they have entrepreneurial tendencies. They work hard like crazy. They over deliver. They make our clients shocked by the results and by their experience, but they don't want to run the business. I love running the business. I'm actually shocked at my desire went from at some point went from like loving coaching. Literally, I remember on the gym floor saying, I don't want to become a business person. I want to just coach. But now, like, I'm being brought in for speaking engagements for teaching how to scale businesses, like, or that kind of stuff. So that changed where I love the business side now more because it just grows the impact of helping more people. But um, but otherwise, that's kind of like my rationale with it from the business perspective. I don't want a business full of entrepreneurs. I will literally tell someone that in their interview. I'm gonna go, cool. Do you want to own your own business someday? Yeah. Sorry, this isn't for you. And I will literally tell them on the interview that.
I'm really glad that you said that. And I think it's important for people to hear. And different people are wired different ways. And that's something that I've very much learned. Like there are some people that just want to coach their clients and be left alone. They want to earn a great living, coach their clients, and that's it.
Yeah.
There are some people that continuously want to grow. And that's fucking great. And I will 100% help any and all of those people.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're wanting to work for a company that doesn't want their coaches to do that, or doesn't necessarily need their coaches to do that, you need to know what you're getting into.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the last thing, perhaps I'm a bit naive, but knowing who I am, I would never go work for somebody else. It just wouldn't even cross my mind.
Mm-mm.
So if ever I have someone approach me about a job, I wouldn't clue in that that's what they were trying to do. Like come in, steal what I have, and then leave. But to be fair, they could just pay me for mentorship and not have to go through all the problems.
So I was about to say the same thing. Where if so, like I've had people who want to be a coach for me. They're like, no, I just want to come in and learn under you because you're so good with this stuff, and I just want to help you help you with your business, fulfill the clients, and then learn, and then I can take that for my business. Bro, I respect the fuck out of that. I think that's a great model, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you do that though. You know what I mean? Nothing is like I put everything out on. So like, I'm not hiding anything, but for the stability of my business, I mean, imagine if I gave you a roster of 40 people, 50 people, then all of a sudden you're gone. Now I got to offload all 40, 50 people to someone else. And that's not fair to the client. That's not fair to the other coach that just got 40 bombs dropped in their lap. Yeah. So, and like you said, like, I don't like publicly talk about it, but I do like very few, but like business consulting where I have some people who will hit me up. They're like, I love the way you build your thing. Can I pay you? And we'll have a call and just talk about like, and I go, yeah, sure. And I'll do that. I'm not, but I don't talk about it because guess what? It fucks with my messaging.
Yep.
I'm scaling my baby is I don't need to do business coaching to make money. If anything, it steals my time from scaling my business, but I have a very small handful of people who want to do that. I go, sure. And I'll literally have a call once a month, something like that. But I don't talk about it. It's the people who go, I like what you're doing. I'd like to, that's really what I did with my first mentor. My first mentor, he built exactly what I wanted to build. And I'm like, we set up a call once a month and I worked with him for 4 years, you know, and it's that same kind of thing. So, but that's kind of like my thoughts on it. So,
and you and I have the same thoughts. Like the difference is I really, really enjoy the business coaching. Hence why I've made it a part of my business, but I'll always coach people. Like I love coaching people, and I don't think I'll ever be one of the like super high ticket coaches because the people that I want to coach aren't going to pay that much money. And I'm totally okay with that. You know, power lifters don't want to pay $1,000 a month for coaching. They just don't.
Right.
And that's totally okay with me. But if you're wanting to build your business to make you six figures, you'll pay over $1,000 a month because the return on investment is massive.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I do want to be sensitive to your time, and I have a couple quick hit questions for you. The first one being, do you crack your egg on a flat surface or on the side of a pan?
I do both, if we're being honest. Like literally, I normally would, ever since I saw a TikTok of like it like fires a shell back into the egg, I go, okay, flat surface. But at the same time, sometimes it's just I don't give a fuck and I'll just do it. Or if I'm feeling spicy, I will crack it on the curve of the pan.
Oh, so you take advantage of both.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, it's like that contoured to the egg. So go pow, and then, you know, whatever.
You're playing 3D chess over there.
You like that?
What is one album you could listen to with no skips?
So this is why where I'm a disappointment to society. I'm the worst music person ever. And I don't I like leave my Spotify like on shuffle and like that's it. So I don't even know like full albums, and I'm the worst with artists and song names. I am feeling though a lot of I'm a big Russ fan, so I could put but like even with Russ, I don't like even I don't very rarely do I like someone's whole album. I'm like I like that one song, those two songs, that one song. Um, so I don't think know of any album that I'm like I could play over and over again because I'm like
It's
it's
okay.
not
It's
you
okay.
know.
All
But
these questions say a lot about your personality, so it's okay.
yeah, no. A question. I'm curious. Do you have like anyone that you could listen to their entire album and enjoy it,
Oh yeah,
like an album they drop? Really
yeah.
interesting.
Like Nas's album Illmatic. Oh, I could totally
Okay.
listen nonstop. Um, 5 dinner guests, dead or alive. Who are you having dinner with?
MLK,
Okay.
Jesus, Hitler. Yeah, that one's a curveball. I would love to talk to Hitler. Um, mm, Tony Robbins and Ed Milet.
Jesus is very popular in that question. A lot of people
Yeah.
want to talk to Jesus.
So actually, okay, can I actually? There's one others that's actually. I want to make an amendment to that. I don't know
Okay.
who I would replace, but if I could sit down with my 80-year-old self right now, I would do that above anybody
Ooh.
else. You want to talk about some weird intergame shit? Like it's along these lines. I would love to sit down with my 80-year-old self.
You're the first person to think future in that
Yeah.
question.
So, well, when people say dead or alive, most people think like past.
Yeah.
But like, so if I had to say like my top three, it would be MLK, my 80-year-old self. Um, the third one's kind of a toss up. Like the reason for Hitler is like, yeah, he did some fucked up shit. Like I'm not like saying any of that was good, but there is a leadership and communication thing that happened that no one can argue with when you can control that massive populace. And I would love to pick his brain around that. Not again, all things come with good and evil powers, but even though yes, he is a fucking degenerate who should be slowly punished.
Yeah.
But you can't decide, but no one can argue he wasn't a fantastic leader. He just used his leadership with bad things. So
I think I'd be curious to speak to anyone who was either able to communicate a message to that many people and get the
right.
outcome that he was after, good or bad.
Right.
But I also love people who have like kind of out to left field thought processes
Yeah.
for their time. And I'm not saying Hitler was one of those people. I think people like Socrates.
Mm,
It's like no one was thinking what he was thinking at the time.
no. Yeah.
So
Aristotle. Yeah.
how did that come about? Like, did you
Yeah.
do a lot of mushrooms? Like, what was going on?
Marcus Aurelius will be on that list too.
Yeah,
Would
there
love
you go.
to. Yeah. Yeah.
There you
A
go.
lot of the old Stoic guys. So
So the last question is, who would you like to see on this podcast? With the caveat being that you have to help me get them on.
so the people that you think I could get on,
Yeah.
or like if I had to say, like case in point, I have no access to Tony Robbins, but if I'm like, I'd love to see interview Tony Robbins, but I don't know how I'd help you. Like,
No, you have to
someone that,
help me. You have to help me get them on. Like I'm gonna message you in a couple days and be like,
oh, is this how I came here from Aram?
yes.
Got it. Okay.
You're doing my job for me right now.
I think this is brilliant, to be honest with you. I'm probably going to steal this whole concept.
I stole it. So
Yeah. Who'd you steal it from?
there's a podcast called Up in Smoke with
Mm-hmm.
Matt Barnes, and it's a basketball podcast.
Gotcha. Who would do good on this? I think if you like this kind of stuff, I think Cody McBroom would be a great one on here. If you know Cody.
I don't.
Cody owns the what's his company name? Taylor the Tailored Coaching Method.
Oh,
And
I've heard of that.
yeah, Crushes business crushes his. He's been on my show I think twice. Lots of great conversation whether you want to go the mental route with this kind of stuff or life ownership, or he is a brilliant motherfucker with like fitnessy stuff and strength training and like yeah. So Cody would crush. So,
Dude, Jared,
and has a ton of coaches. So you could talk business as well. He's really successful in that space too.
dude, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'll make sure that if anyone wants to find you, your links will be available in the show notes. But I do want to thank you one final time for joining me. And I'm excited. I feel like I made a new kindred spirit of a friend here, and
Likewise.
excited to see what you continue to do.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And we'll catch you on the next one.